Well, good morning. Good morning. We're back again. Anything I say is not meant to replace your medical care. Check with your doctor before taking any of my advice, okay? That's my disclaimer. All right, we have just a lot of questions. We're going to jump right in. PJ from North Carolina is here. Hi, PJ.
Hey, how are you, Dr. Berg?
Great, thanks.
Just wanted to ask you a quick question with some issues that I've kind of been having. I've had like a very tight hamstring and lower back and hips, especially my left side, for like 6 to 7 years now. But I don't have like a hernia or anything like that. And I know probably the smart option is to get physical therapy, but in college right now, so I'm trying not to spend too much on that. But I was just curious if you have any idea what it could. I know it's too general of a question, but if you have any idea if it's like a vitamin deficiency or is it an actual like issue in my body? It's not debilitating in any way, but
do you do any sports at all? Do you do any type of exercise?
Yeah, well, with COVID, I can't really play sports right now, but I lift a lot, go to the gym quite a bit, and I run a lot.
Okay. You know, there's a couple things you want to do with the hamstring tightness in the hips. You want to take the muscle that works the opposite of wherever it's tight. So it'd be the quadricep, and you would want to stretch the quads. And I've done a video on this too. Just look up my video on tight hamstrings. You stretch your quads. There's different ways of doing it. That will send a little signal to your hamstring to make it get longer. It's way better than trying to just stretch the hamstring. You'll see some quite interesting results. So usually with what you have, especially with the hip and back and hamstring, you have to stretch the flexors. That's the quadricep as well as the psoas muscle. Those are the two. I show you how to do that in my videos. I think that'll give you a lot of results. And then one last thing, if you're a runner, start doing walking backwards. Try that for a while. It actually reverses the flow, and boy, your back pain just kind of goes right away because you're not just working on this one-sided muscle.
Okay, great. Thank you, doctor.
You're welcome. All right, good. And then Sam from Canada, Toronto. Are you there, Sam?
Hi, Dr. Berg. How are you?
Great, thanks.
I'm actually asking this question on behalf of my mom. Actually, she's been doing keto for, I would say, close to 2 to 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And she started making her own breads, so she uses like walnut, flax, pumpkin seeds, and coconut in it. And she's a pure vegetarian, so she doesn't have another source. So she just wanted to know if that's okay. Like, can she make her own keto bread? Will it take her out of ketosis? Just your opinion on that.
Yeah, if you're using certain types of flours like coconut oil, I mean, that's like very low protein. It's a lot of fiber. There's not a lot of sugar in that, so that's going to be fine. The almond flour is pretty high in protein. There is some carbs in there. And then you said there was another flour. What was the other one?
Walnut, flax, pumpkin seeds, and coconut.
Oh, okay. I think that's a good combination. I don't think that's going to take her out of ketosis. I like that. Is she a vegan or a vegetarian?
Vegetarian.
So can she do eggs?
Yes, she can.
And what about, well, she can't do collagen powder, but sometime if you add the eggs in there, that's a good protein source. But yeah, that'd be totally fine. I'm coming up with quite a few different simple recipes for bread because apparently, you know, people like bread. But but sometimes, you know, it's hard to do the very lengthy type process where you're adding all these different ingredients. I mean, it tastes amazing, but it takes forever to make. But there's these simple things that you can make pretty A to B. But yeah, I would not see there's a problem with that. So. Okay,
and can I ask you one more thing?
Sure, go ahead.
Are roasted peanuts a okay thing to eat? Because she says that, I don't know what this is, but she says Valencia is a bit expensive and hard to find.
Yeah, well, the Valencia, if you get it from places like, I don't know if you have it up there, but Trader Joe's, it's pretty inexpensive. Organic Valencia peanut butter is pretty, is good. I don't know about the actual peanuts, but here's the problem. If you do regular peanuts, even if they're roasted or not, you still have a risk of getting that that aflatoxin thing, which is not good. And I mean, if you can't find it, fine, but definitely do organic for sure, because they spray peanuts they're grown underneath the ground because they're not a true nut in a tree, and so they absorb all the toxins, and so you're getting a very highly sprayed product. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome, doctor. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. And Barbara from Virginia, right down the street.
Yes.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Great.
Hey. I'm calling for my son. I first want to give a compliment to keto. He's adult now, but he's bedwet since he was a baby. And he's been doing a keto, mostly almost carnivore, and he hasn't bedwetted in a long time.
Wow,
so
that's great.
anybody's got that problem. I don't know if it's a dairy. I think it's a dairy or the wheat, but either way.
It's actually high. It's basically high sugar because think about water in the body, especially urine, goes where the sugar goes. So there's I'm not saying it's a pre-diabetic, but there's definitely an insulin problem, and that's when you go keto, that clears that right up. So for those bedwetters out there, get on keto.
Yeah, and also it cleared up his geographic tongue, so that was cool too, because he's been on medicine for a long time.
Wow.
Because of Brio, I think. He has asthma, and he's trying to get rid of that, but he also has a shellfish allergy. And is there any way, he wants me to ask you, is there any way that he can eliminate a shellfish allergy, because it disrupts his anxiety and everything?
How old is he?
He's 21.
Well, I think that he needs to do a lot of fasting. Anytime you have an allergy, whether it's environmental, it's food, whatever, fasting can help you greatly. And the key is doing periodic, prolonged fasting. So occasionally, maybe once a month, he does a 72-hour fast, because that's the magic number where your immune system, the stem cells start kicking in. You grow a new immune system.
But don't eat for 72 hours?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Now, of course, he has to kind of build up to it, but that would be the ultimate to help reduce things that are related to a weakened immune system, allergies, that type of thing. But also the gut is going to heal as well. That's what I would do if I were him. And then you also mentioned one additional thing that right before that you said
That asthma. He has
asthma. Yes,
he has to take Brio, so that's getting less, but not gone.
That's vitamin D. Vitamin D,
Oh,
cod
really?
oil. Yes, he needs to take vitamin D, minimally 10,000 IUs. And in summer, he needs to get a lot of sun because apparently the vitamin D is one of the best things for asthma. Cod oil is really good as well. And I think over time, when he does this intermittent fasting, periodic and then regular intermittent fasting, that will greatly reduce his symptoms from asthma.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. All right, we got Gary from New Jersey. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Doc. By the way, I'm going to blame you for the last 5 pounds I gained. A few weeks ago, you brought up Trader Joe's peanut butter. I immediately went over there and got the Valencia Organic, and within a day, finished the jar.
Oh, my gosh. I'll take
I added some roasted coconut, shredded coconut, without the sugar, of course.
Oh, wow.
But it is just too good. And then I went back the next day and did it again, and I said, this is ridiculous. I stopped it now, but 2 days of that, I can't go back there again for that. Believe me, I was going to Whole Foods, and they have machines there that grind it fresh. This from Trader Joe's is much better.
Isn't it though?
So
if you actually can make it a disciplined thing to put just a little bit on your celery stick, right? And you put a little in the celery stick, eat that, and so that way you have less of it, but then you have to eat more celery to get your peanut butter. Yeah,
I actually tried even freezing it and putting it in little cups. That didn't work. I just kept taking it out of the freezer, and in minutes it thawed out on the counter, or even half hours thawed out in the refrigerator. So that's the end of the peanut butter, but it's definitely great. I'll make this real quick. I am on an 18-6 eating window. Have my first meal at lunch at noon, and then usually dinner at 5 or 6 o'clock. The only thing I have in the morning is a cup of coffee with a tablespoon of cream, and I usually have that between 5 and 6. And for the most part, I am low carb. I just got back into keto in the last 4 days, but I was doing low carb for about 1 3/4 years. I finally got the nerve to go out and order one of those testing kits for blood glucose and ketones. And I'm 72 years old, and I go to the gym every day, well, 5 days a week. So I've been testing my blood sugar when I get back from the gym, which is before lunch, I'd say around noon. And I've been testing it for the last 2 weeks. And every time I test it, it's about the same reading, between 113 and 116. I know it's supposed to be under 100, and a lot of the videos I see on YouTube say between 70 and 80 or 90.
Right.
And I'm concerned because I'm not eating. You know, I mean, I'm going 18 hours without eating, and then I'm working out. I do a pretty good workout for an hour on elliptical and treadmill. So I'm a little concerned with the blood sugar. The last A1C I had was 5.9, and that usually ranges between 5.7 and 5.9.
Okay, so you're just slightly above there. Just realize that your blood sugars are not probably coming from your diet. However, when you said for the most part, I don't know for sure, but there might be some hidden carbs. I think the best way to solve this problem is to reduce your carb and fast a little longer, and then
Let me just say this.
Yeah.
I went on keto and back to strict keto the last 4 or 5 days, and my keto is over 1.0 right now.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I have that, the meter to test that.
Okay.
And also have the test strips, and they're when you look at the test strip and compare it, it would be like 4.0, which I know that's not right, but the blood is coming up to at least 1.0 and above. So I've been in very strict keto for the last 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking about like 10 total carbs.
Okay.
And when I say that I was on low carb, I count total carbs, not net carbs. I was usually doing maybe 20 to 30 max.
I think that
I definitely don't go over 20 to 30. I eat the same thing every day.
Okay.
I don't really change up.
Okay, so I think you're right on track. I would just give it a little more time, probably another several weeks. The reason is because it's not coming from your diet. Your body is producing it. It's called gluconeogenesis. Your liver is making it because you probably had some insulin resistance before that. I'll talk more about that in about 10 minutes because I want to talk about being fat adapted. But here's the thing. Anything you could do right now to support your liver would actually speed up the results. Choline, bile salts, a bit more vegetable, and maybe milk thistle, anything like that will strengthen your, let me just put this on here, will strengthen your liver, and the gluconeogenesis will be more regulated and your sugar will come down. Also, I know you work out at the gym. If you also go for a long walk after that, that should just burn up that extra sugar. I think you're on track to bring it down. I just give it a little bit more time, probably several more weeks. All right. So, Steve.
Yes, sir. Let's do our morning homework with all the great listeners from around the world. So, a good morning shout out to our viewers in Spain, the UK, Canada, Turkey, Taiwan, Mexico. There you go. Thank you, folks. We've been waiting for you. Belize, been there, beautiful, scuba dive. Nigeria, Iceland, Denmark, Austria, Hong Kong, India, Israel. Good grief, Australia, Cameroon, Egypt, Belgium. It keeps growing. Costa Rica, Trinidad, Tobago. Morocco, France, Italy, Sweden, and all across these United States. And I'm glad that Mexico is chiming in. Boy, Baja, that whole peninsula, no more beautiful place in the world. And then also, I think, Doc, we should probably go to our first quiz question so we can knock those out. Got 5 very interesting ones. And the first one is, what's the primary emotional trigger for the release of insulin?
No, adrenaline.
Oh, excuse me, adrenaline. Thank
Adrenaline.
you. Yeah, there we go.
What's the primary emotional trigger for adrenaline? That's the first question. See if you guys can get this one correct. All right, and then let me know, Steve, when you have some social media questions.
Actually, I do. Let's go with the first one on, let's go to YouTube today. Marcel, why do you think keto, help me here, Terry. why do you think keto would help with gluten? Oh, with gluten issues. Okay, why would keto help with gluten issues?
Because you're not eating gluten.
Ta-da!
You're getting rid of the grains. So, but of course, gluten is a protein, so sometimes people use it as a keto-friendly, but the problem is there's so many people that have a problem with that in their digestive system that it'll just tear it up.
Now,
So,
can it sneak in some other ways? I mean, besides grain, is there gluten and other stuff that people may not be aware of?
no, it's in certain grains. It's not in all grains, but it's in certain grains. But you know what? You got to give it up. I'm sorry.
All right, now over to Facebook. Natalie wants to know how can keto help with supragastric belching? I guess that's a fancy way of saying burping.
Yeah. In fact, I had this patient who came in a long time ago when I was in my clinic, and her problem was burping. She burped for a whole year. Her husband was this close to divorcing her because it was driving him insane. And I found out she was going down the street to this weight loss doctor who was giving her this powdered chocolate weight loss shake with soy protein isolates. It was just, because the soy just tears up your liver and your gallbladder. So we got her off that, and then she did much better. I don't know how she's doing recently, but the thing with the burping, it's gallbladder. And so you want to avoid certain things that are destroying your gallbladder, like the omega-6 fatty acids, like the soy oil, the canola oil, the corn oil, that stuff. Of course, grains. And you don't necessarily want to go on low fat. Just do the healthy version of keto that is in this book right here. That's what I would do. Wouldn't hurt to take some purified bile salts, and that should help the burping.
Wow, well, thank goodness for her husband's patience and thoughtfulness and sticking with her through the belching.
All right, good. So you let me know when you have an answer, if you want to ask me a question, Steve.
Okay, I tell you what, let's go with the answer since we have so many. And the question again, which I misread, was what is the primary emotional trigger for the release of adrenaline? And our audience says 20% stress, 40% anxiety, and 40% fear, which I'd kind of lump in with anxiety maybe. But what do you think, Doc?
The answer is fear. That is the emotion.
There we go.
Fear is the big trigger for adrenaline. So this is why some people like to watch the scary movies, adrenaline junkies, because it gives us some bit of a exhilaration. But there's actually, when you increase your adrenaline, you actually don't always feel that great. It can really affect your blood sugars. I remember when I rode my bike, the chain got locked up. I went over the handlebars going about 30 miles an hour on concrete. Mangled up my arm. I'm laying there and I'm adrenaline rush like crazy, and I am extremely thirsty because my blood sugars went right drop down there, and I ended up had to go get some surgery. But the point is that fear is not good for, chronic fear is not the good emotional to have if you want to sleep, if you want to keep your adrenaline chilled out. Adrenaline triggers cortisol too, and so that kind of creates the belly fat. That puts you in a state where you get the opposite effect, like all of a sudden cortisol doesn't work. So now you have inflammation, you have insomnia, you have excessive thinking, you're in stress mode, you can't relax, can't heal, can't recover. Other than that though, you're perfectly fine. But I think anything you guys can do to decrease fear, it would be a very therapeutic thing to do as it relates to certain people you hang out with, as well as certain things that are on TV, like the news. Just nix that and get into nature, listen to music, chill out. But yeah, getting out of that fear state is going to be very important for your health.
All right, and let's try one more from Facebook. Sort of interesting. Barbara wants to know if drinking filtered rainwater can give you a headache. Boy, talking about pure, so rainwater and then you filter it. I can't imagine what that would hurt, but maybe she's chugging it too fast or something. What do you have for Barbara, Doc?
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of things in rain. Like it could be, depending what kind of filter you have, there could be even some heavy metals. There could be some type of toxins, believe it or not. It's not just pure water. So I wonder if your filter is strong enough to pull out certain impurities. One of the best waters that you can get, grew up in Wisconsin with this is the well water and spring water. But man, it was like literally sweet. It's the best water, very pure. But of course, tap water now is very, very unhealthy. And it has hormones in it, it has antibiotics, it has prescription drugs, it has a lot of estrogen. So don't ever drink tap water. Get a good filter and keep it clean.
Now, will filters help tap water from stuff like, hormones?
Certain ones will. You'd have to probably get reverse osmosis. There's other ones as well. Like in my house, I had to get one for the chlorine and other chemicals, plus I had to get an additional one for the fluoride because that fluoride would mess up your skin. So it's definitely a situation.
All right, Doc, why don't we launch the next quiz, then we'll let you go back to the phones.
Okay.
All right, so Dr. Berg is asking what type of fat is in a fat cell. So what type of fat would you find in a fat cell?
And that could be also a plural. What type of fats are in a fat cell? That's the question. Let's see if you guys can get this one. And I'm going to go right to Valerie from Houston, Texas.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks.
I have a question about headaches that I am getting. They seem to be developing during the night. And I'm not sure what the cause is. At first I thought the cause was, I'm so sorry. I've been doing keto and intermittent fasting for a week. I started last Friday, and the headache started almost immediately. So I started taking 5 tablets of the potassium during the day, and then I was taking 2 tablets, 500 milligrams of magnesium right before bed. And then I bought your electrolyte powder, which is delicious, and was drinking that 2 or 3 times a day. And the headaches got a little better, but were still there. They seem to be developing between midnight and 6 a.m. The last couple of days, they've been less pronounced, but I think I'm grinding my teeth. I think that might be what's causing the headaches, because the last several mornings I've noticed when I wake up, my jaw is tight. I've worn a mouth guard for probably 10 or 15 years, but I think that I might be like grinding them more or like actually even clenching down in the night. I was wondering if you thought the sleep aid that you have on your website would help, or if there's something else I might try. Because I've never had headaches this bad from the grinding.
Got it. So do you have a headache right now?
No.
Okay.
I did when I woke up, though. So I wake up, I have it, and then so I've had my Bulletproof green tea, and usually the headache is gone then before noon.
So do an experiment. Okay, do an experiment, and the next time you have a headache, I want you to massage underneath your right rib cage, about an inch down, right off the midline. Massage that area real good, and then if that headache goes away, then we know it's related to the gallbladder, in which case the gallbladder formula would be what you need, because a lot of times when you start keto, you're doing more fat, and if you're not used to it, you don't have enough bile, that can create a problem that shoots up into the head and creates a headache, and that can happen at night, whatever, especially if you feel a little bit kind of a tightness underneath your rib cage. So that's one thing. The other thing that I would do is I would add some more sea salt. You may even want to take my electrolyte powder and this is what I do, I put some salt in it because there's not a lot of salt in there. And believe it or not, that could knock out the headaches right with that, because it could be a low salt situation. The electrolytes I have are real high in potassium, magnesium, but low in salt. So those are the 2 things that I would do. And then let's say that doesn't work, then you'd want the sleep formula.
Oh, okay. So massage under the rib cage, about an inch down and just a little bit past center.
Yeah.
And then if that fixes it, then I get the gallbladder formula.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work, I try adding in more salt, maybe even to the electrolyte powder. And if that doesn't work, the sleep aid.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate your
welcome.
help.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Doc, we got some answers to the question.
Okay.
And the question was, what type of fats are in a fat cell? And our audience suggests that 20% fatty acids, 30% brown fat, 30% white fat, and 20% say lipids.
You know, you guys are correct, but I'm going to just kind of give you more what I was looking for. Believe it or not, a good portion of that fat cell is triglycerides, okay? And that triglycerides can be used as energy. And so when you're losing fat, that fat's coming out and you're using that for energy. That's why keto gives you a lot of energy. But between 25% and 50% of that fat cell is cholesterol, depending on how fat you are. If you're really fat, it's going to be like 50%. And that means that cholesterol in that fat cell has to come out. It cannot be used for energy, Steve. So what happens is you go and your doctor, you get tested, like, oh my gosh, my cholesterol is high. Well, that's because that has to come out to the body. Now, the only reason, one of the only reasons that it'll be high when you start keto is that your liver isn't quite 100%. So you're not producing the bile. The bile is the key thing that kind of breaks down the fat, so then the pancreas can then break it down with the enzymes. So it's really a matter of your liver function. Especially when you start keto, you might have a fatty liver. So if you look down right now and you look at your stomach, if you can't see your shoes because your stomach's in the way, that means you have a fatty liver. And so you'd want to do keto for a longer period of time, get rid of the belly fat, all of a sudden the cholesterol comes in check. I wouldn't necessarily worry about it, but if you are worried about it, just take some things to support the gallbladder, like choline, gallbladder formula that has the bile salts in there, and that should help greatly.
Okay, well, Doc, speaking of that, I'm going to do a two for questions both from YouTube and Facebook. So Venice wants to know, how long will it take to heal my fatty liver? And Neva on YouTube, I think I've got that backward, best treatment for a fatty liver. So these folks are concerned about that. How can they use your remedies to aid that?
So I'm going to release another video on this. I have several, but there's a couple things. Bile salts are really important. Getting on keto, low carb, over time will eventually fix the liver. You'll start seeing significant reduction in fat off the liver right away when you do keto, and especially if you add some of these remedies like gallbladder formula or the choline, which is a good vitamin. Choline is the type of B vitamin that is actually inside bile. It's actually part of bile, and it's kind of like bile because it breaks down fat. So that's a really good one. But here's the thing. The liver does take a bit of time to fully rejuvenate. It could take up to 3 years. So when you start keto, be on it at least 3 years to really give it that full experiment, to make sure that you do it long enough to make sure that you get all the benefits from keto, especially for your liver. But yeah, so many people have a fatty liver, they don't know it. A lot of people also have cirrhosis of the liver and don't know it because they're not routinely getting biopsies. When you do the keto plan, add a good amount of vegetables as well to support the liver, because the liver responds to the cruciferous vegetables. So don't forget or neglect those. Steve.
I'm going to keep that in mind. And by the way, the numbers are terrific all over the world for both Facebook and YouTube, and that's in great part to all the participation for the audience. It makes it really interesting to look at the threads going through YouTube and Facebook. So thank you, folks, for your great participation in the show, and it makes a difference. It keeps it very, very interesting, and it keeps us from getting bored in the control room.
All right, Steve. Edmund is on the line from Laguna Hills, California.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Berg, very much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
You've been extremely helpful in my life. I'm 74 years old. I'm on OMAD. I've been doing the healthy keto. Well, I've been doing keto, OMAD, and for 3 months now. I was really quite heavy. I was 185 pounds, 5'10". I had been mostly vegan. I had been basically vegan for several years, and my weight just kept creeping up. And then I discovered your videos and so forth and your work, and I got onto the program, and I got down to now 151 pounds.
Wow.
And my question is this. I've been a hiker for many years, and I'm noticing since losing this weight that it's very difficult for me to go more than maybe 20, 30 minutes without what I call hitting the wall. I get really tired and wiped out and have to stop. And it's distressing. What am I doing wrong, Dr. Berg?
How long you been on the program for?
3 months.
Okay. So I think there's a couple things that I would recommend right off the bat, especially for endurance when you're walking and or exercising. I think you should probably find a type of vitamin E called tocotrienols, okay, and get that because tocotrienols is better than the tocopherols, and tocotrienols will greatly increase the oxygen in your heart and your muscle tissue. It's one of the best things for endurance, and probably at the peak of every large mountain, we have mountain climbers, you'll see empty bottles of vitamin E or sometimes tocopherol or tocotrienols because it allows you to breathe in higher altitudes. So it'll help give more oxygen saturation to your muscles, your heart, and it's good for a lot of other things too. So that's one thing I would do for sure. The other thing that I'd like you to try and experiment with is just get some MCT oil and take that about a half hour before you work out, like maybe a tablespoon or two. And let's see if that doesn't help you, because if that helps you, that tells us that you still are not quite 100% free of the insulin resistance. And that'll give you some good energy ketones right off the bat for your muscles and your body to use while you're exercising. So those are the two things that I would do. There's a lot of other things, but see if that works, and if it doesn't, let's touch base in a couple weeks, okay?
All right, great. May I have one more ask one more little quick question?
Yeah.
I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh boy.
You and I are in the same boat, Edmund. I'll tell you that.
Let me ask my wife here. What was the second question? What was the second? Oh yeah. How do I maintain my weight, Dr. Berg? I eat a little bit of fish. I'm not a pure vegan. I eat a little bit of salmon, here and there. How do I maintain this weight? I think I'd rather not lose any more, though I really like the OMAD and the low carb eating. It just has been wonderful for me.
Well, I'll tell you, anyone over the age of 50 should be on OMAD for sure. I think to maintain it now so you don't continue to lose, which honestly, even if you're slightly on the thin side, you're still going to be healthy if you do OMAD. But I think that you may want to consider 1 meal and a half. And so basically, let's say you do your first meal maybe at 1 o'clock or 2, and then the other meal is not a full meal. It's just like your salad. You can get your greens. You can put some olive oil on it and things like that. But that way you have the big salad, and it's not going to spike insulin too much. And it's you have a chance to eat more calories if you break it up in 2 or 1.5 than trying to sit down and try to get all your greens, all your protein in one meal. That's difficult. So you might want to try that, see if that doesn't work. And then the other thing is just to make sure you have enough calories. Basically, you have to eat a bit more, and then make sure your fat's a little bit higher. And you may even want to take some MCT oil on the other parts of the day, and that way your body will use that more than your own fat, and you won't lose any more weight. All right, good question. All right.
All right, here we go. So, by the way, Irish and others on social media complimented me personally for complimenting the audience. So I'm very flattered with that. And I tell you what, why don't we do a quick quiz question, launch that out there, and then maybe go back to social media. So,
well, I'm going to compliment her for complimenting you for complimenting.
Thank you so much. We are just a complete adoration of one another here in the control room and all across the world. So really, they're just so fun. And we got some social media questions, but why don't we kick one of these off for their consideration? And it is, why would weight loss increase the risk of gallstones in some people. So while you guys think about that, I'm going to go to a social media question, and this is sort of interesting. Natasha, and I'm not sure where she may have heard this, but can kelp noodles and iodized salt help my son grow taller? Have you ever heard of such a thing, Doc?
I think it's going to help a lot. There's one, I mean, if you're deficient, especially in iodine and other trace minerals, it can actually keep someone from growing to their potential. I think these children need to have more trace minerals in their diet. Seafood will provide that, but a lot of times they don't eat that. So unless you're getting something from the sea, you're not going to get a lot of trace minerals, unfortunately, from the food. So you're going to have to figure out how to get them some trace minerals. And that way they can maximize their growth potential, but iodine is a key factor. And also not just height, but mental development and IQ. It can actually help that as well.
Wow, that's great. And then I'm guessing that Mesa is not from Falls Church, Virginia or something. Excuse me, Dr. Freeman, is camel milk good for keto? Should we suggest an Arabic country perhaps? Or?
Well, camel milk is not a bad milk, but I would recommend not the milk because it's a bit too high in carbs. Now, if you have the camel milk cheese, that's a different story. That's higher in protein. And of course, any type of milk products, any type of dairy, if you have a fibroid, if you have a risk of fibrocystic breast or cancer of the breast, or you have prostate enlargement, difficulty urinating because the prostate's too large, you want to avoid dairy. Ear infections, avoid dairy. I consume dairy. I don't consume a lot anymore like I like to, just I have a little bit, but I make sure that it's grass-fed, I make sure that it's organic, and preferably European cheeses.
Okay, that's great. And then finally, at least for this round, Mesa, and I've heard of this before, what's the best time to take, and she's on YouTube, D3 supplements? Is there a difference in when you should take those?
You know, just as long as you take them not right before bed, even though some people do, it doesn't affect them. Take them more in the early part of the day. It's good to take them with your meal or some fat. If you take my D3, I have already in there MCT oil, so it already comes with the fat. It also comes with the bile and some other things, so it's up to you. But yeah, you want to have it preferably with a meal, but it's not a necessity. It's not a necessity. You're still going to get a lot of benefits from it, so I think it's a minor point.
And another point, I hear a lot of people saying these scary numbers like 10,000 IUs and so on when, the junk you buy from the drugstore has, a fraction of that. But once again, I read that staying out in the sun with your shirt off, for half a day will give you 50,000 IUs of natural vitamin D.
It'll give you about 25,000
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
But still, so the idea that you take 20,000 IUs of your great stuff is somehow injurious is just not in line with what nature gives us.
Well, this boils down to false information that's put out there, and I mean, unfortunately, people don't study or read these research articles, so they're just going to go off what's been pushed out there. I mean, think about this, Steve. Crisco was on the market. I think it might be still on the markets with trans fats for 97 years. Okay, and it was considered not to be unhealthy, considered like better than other fats like lard and things like that, until recently, there was a ban on trans fats. So there's a lot of things that we're told that end up not being true. And I'll tell you one thing: it's the vitamin D levels. That's one of them. I think a maintenance dosage of 10,000 IUs is perfectly reasonable, and there's no toxicity from 10,000 IUs. Some people, some of the toxicity happens with hypercalcemia, and that happens from several of the studies that I read, that you have to take hundreds of thousands of vitamin D3 over months. Hundreds of thousands of vitamin D or IUs. So that's a little different than 10,000 IUs. And plus, you have all the other barriers. You have if your skin is darker, you can't absorb it. If you're older, you can't absorb it. If you're overweight, you can't absorb it. You can't really get it from the food anymore. or even ever. It's from the sun, but who's going to go out in the sun? So it's like there's a lot of barriers that keep us from absorbing vitamin D. It's the most important fat-soluble vitamin, especially for your immune system. Okay, Steve, enough on that.
Yeah,
What do we
how
got?
about, okay, so why would weight loss increase the risk of gallstones in some people? And our audience suggests that 10% long walks, 20% dehydration, that makes sense, 30% acidosis, and 40% increased fat intake. Have any winners?
Well, think about this. You're losing weight. And the question previous to this, I talked about almost 50% of your fat cell is cholesterol. A gallstone is a super concentrated amount of cholesterol. That's where it's coming from, but that's only going to occur if you have a lack of bile, if you don't have enough bile salts in your liver because there's some, I don't know, fatty liver, or you have some issue with producing bile. But it's rare, but some people will get them if they don't have enough bile. The simple solution is to take some purified bile salts. If you're losing a lot of weight, if you're at risk, if you had a gallstone before and you're obese and you're actually going to lose weight, take some purified bile salts, and that way that can prevent that. And in addition to that, you can actually consume more vegetables, which actually help buffer some of this cholesterol. It's the bile that helps regulate cholesterol. And I will be releasing a video on this very, very soon. All right. Steve?
How about some phone calls?
Yeah. Let's go to Jonelle from, let's see, where are you from?
Salem, Massachusetts. How you doing,
Oh,
Dr.
great,
Berg?
great.
Thank you so much for everything you do. The keto lifestyle has changed my life forever, and I'm so grateful. So I have a question in terms of exogenous ketone supplements. Do they actually work, and are they harmful?
You know, there's a time and place for them. They do not help you become fat adaptive. They don't help you do anything with your body as far as improvements in lowering insulin or anything. That's something you have to do. But there's some benefits to exogenous ketones. Number one, if you want more mental clarity, let's say to the day, I mean, it's probably a little bit cheaper if you do the MCT oil, but because exogenous ketones are a bit expensive. There are also some benefit of when you do exercise, especially a long-term exercise, you can add some more ketones. But again, you can do MCT oil as well. So, and then the biggest benefit is if you have Alzheimer's or dementia or even Parkinson's, I would highly recommend to take those because you want to get all the help you can get by saturating your brain with ketones, and that's going to bypass the glucose and support dementia. So that's kind of when I would recommend it, but not for weight loss.
Okay, so not for weight loss. Thank you so much, and I guess that's where I was getting at. Thank you so much, Dr. Berg.
Sure. I mean, it's so funny. Like, how are you going to lose weight with taking a ketone? I mean, you're just adding ketones. The ketones aren't causing you to lose weight. Your own fat on your body is not even. If you take ketones, then your own body doesn't have to generate ketones. It doesn't have to burn the ketones. So all your fats is going to be sitting there. It's not going to go away. So you don't lose any weight with ketones.
Wow, well, and thus our next question. So, what is one factor you must do to adapt your body to fat burning? That's our next question.
So let me clarify this. What is the one factor to get your body to adapt to fat burning?
The one factor. There
Yeah.
we go. Audience, have at it.
Yeah, what's the most important single thing you must do? It's really just one thing. Okay, so now let's go to Jean from New York.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you so much for taking my call. I watch all your YouTube channel.
Oh, great.
Dr. Berg, I have, my husband have very, very bad acid reflux, and he took an endoscopy on Monday, and he I'm trying so hard because I'm home, try to help him to eat healthy, but he's been having a lot of pain. I'll put him on to talk to you directly. Thank you, Dr. Berg.
Sure.
Hello, Dr. Berg. Thank you for taking our call.
Sure.
So I'm looking at the results from my endoscopy, and one of it is I got a small size hiatal hernia. The other thing is I'm reading the doctor's report. Normal mucosa, small fundic gland polyp in body of stomach, and then a normal duodenal bulb was seen, and that's it for the report.
Okay. So I think that I'll have to, you know what, I'm going to do a video. I may have done this already on hiatal hernias. It's a very simple, you can be doing massage underneath your rib cage, close to your stomach area, and that tends to push this thing back in and give a person a tremendous amount of relief, so you don't have that little bulge there. If I haven't done a video on that, I will do one. But the other thing I think that will benefit you a lot is to take some betaine hydrochloride. You can get it from the health food store, and you want to take probably 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 before a meal. And the reason why that you take that is that'll just help. That helps to keep the valve closed so the acid doesn't kind of come up. But in addition to really fixing the real problem, which is that you need to get on keto, and you need to definitely do intermittent fasting, because ultimately your digestion is going to finally have a chance to chill out, relax, and heal. And I think it's just you're suffering from kind of an overload of the digestive system. So we want to start. It's time to start. So go ahead and do that, and don't forget the betaine hydrochloride. It's going to help you. Another thing that will help you is also drinking apple cider vinegar and like a tablespoon in some water. Slug that down a few times a day, and I think you'll start to turn around. You know, it's interesting when they do those tests, they're looking for, you know, maybe inflammation, some structural problem, but they're not really looking for the functional pH of that stomach. If they did a pH test, they'd probably find that pH is not as acid as it should be, and that's more of a functional issue. And then the valve doesn't quite close, and then you get back up and you get GERD and things like that. All right.
All right, how about some answers for our great question here, okay? And it was, what is the one factor you must do to adapt your body to fat burning? And our audience suggests that don't have any sugar. I agree with them. 30% say fasting, 10% say exercise, and 30% say eliminate carbs. By the way, the no sugar was 30%. So those are our totals.
Well, here's the thing. I wanted to ask this question because I wanted everyone to give me the correct answer, and maybe not everyone did, but it's definitely to reduce sugars and carbs. But reducing carbs is the thing. And of course, when you're not eating anything, that's reducing carbs. So that is what you need to do to get your body converted over into fat burning, is to drop the carbs. If you take a look at all these diets out there, and you just put them next to each other, and you look at them based on this one factor, you can then predict which one's going to be successful and which one's not, based on how many carbs that are in that meal. So start focusing on the carbs more than anything else, and you'll be more successful if you want to get your body into ketosis.
All right, okay, here's our last question. How long does it take for your body to become fat adapted? How long does it take? And we had a caller about that a little earlier, so
yeah,
anyway.
This is a very important question. I want to see what you guys say about this one. So go ahead and chew on that. And let's go to Sarah from Wisconsin.
Hi there.
Hi.
So my question is about raw nuts. So I want to basically start making my own nut butters. And I've heard some people say that you shouldn't be eating raw nuts, that you have to either soak them or roast them. And so my question is, do you have an opinion if raw nuts are okay, if you have to soak them or roast them first, or what do you suggest doing?
There are enzyme inhibitors which can affect certain people, but if you really just want to do it right, you want to germinate them, and you want to soak them in some water in a jug overnight, and then rinse them out. You're going to see all this stuff come out of them. rinse them out and then dry them out and then make your nut butters, I'm telling you, you're going to, not only is it going to be delicious, but you're going to, it's going to be really good on your system. Like you won't feel any weirdness. Now, some people can just consume raw nuts, not a problem. It really depends on how well your system is designed for certain enzyme inhibitors. But I mean, for example, walnuts are usually raw, but I can digest them fine. But if you ever have a raw peanut, oh my gosh, which is not a true nut, but that doesn't really digest well. So I think that it really depends on your digestion, but in my book I talk about how to germinate the nuts. I've done videos on it. That's probably the ideal scene, and you can dry them out in a dehydrator or your oven under low heats. And that way you have all the enzymes and the benefit and the protein and the fats, but without the enzyme inhibitors.
Okay.
Awesome.
And you don't think that would decrease like the vitamin content or anything, the soaking?
No, it's not going to reduce it too much. Not at all, actually. In fact, you're getting rid of enzyme inhibitors and other inhibitors that block nutrition. So it's going to enhance your ability to get nutrition from that nut if you soak them overnight and dry them out.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and then let's just go to Eric from California. Hi, Eric. Good name.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Hi, of course. Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
Hi. Before I get to my question, I want to let you know that you've been such an inspiration to me. I've seen all your videos, and I love the keto and intermittent fasting lifestyle. And as a matter of fact, I already took your health coaches and your keto and intermittent fasting coach because you inspired me to become a health coach.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So I have a curious question. So which is worse, consuming more meat protein or consuming high quality carbohydrates?
Okay, when you say quality carbohydrates,
Meaning.
how would you define a quality carbohydrate?
I would say, like for example, like berries or hummus. Yeah.
Okay. So if you do too many berries, you're going to basically run into too many carbs. Okay, so that's going to knock you out of ketosis. If you do too much protein, that's going to also stimulate insulin, but it's also going to stimulate another hormone called glucagon. And so we have this kind of this interesting thing because glucagon does the opposite of insulin, so it tends to buffer this effect of insulin, but as compared to doing the carbs, which you're purely just going to increase insulin from that. And of course, you have the fiber and you have the nutrients. So I think if I were to have the choice between the two, I think what's better is to do a little more protein than more carb. Especially if you're trying to, let's say you want to build muscle and you want this anabolic effect. And, it's like, and you don't want to do the carbo loading thing. Well, guess what? Protein, at least half of it, is going to turn into glucose. And that glucose then will raise insulin. It's anabolic, but you're also going to get the effect of the glucagon is going to kind of offset that and prevent it to be like a pure insulin effect.
All right, well, Doc, we've got some, a varied amount of answers on our final question, which was, how long does it take for your body to become fat adapted? And wait till you see what they come up with. So I'm not going to even give the percentages. Some say 3 days, 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 72 hours, 3 months, 2 to 6 weeks, 12 weeks. Wow, we're all over the place. Let's bring some clarity to this, Doc.
Okay, so in my videos, I talked about it takes 3 days to start to adapt to ketones, okay? But that's different than fat adapted, very different. Fat adapted is a more stable state where you're actually efficiently burning fat. Let's say you go off the program for a little bit, your body can bounce right back a lot easier. You have metabolic flexibility. Your hunger's gone, your mental clarity, you're losing weight because your body's like breaking down fat at a good rate. Guess when that starts? It starts at 4 weeks, but it can go up to 12 weeks. So it's not going to be 3 days. So to really become fat adapted, You need to do it 4 weeks to 12 weeks. So this is probably a little more than you might think. And so this way you guys have the correct estimation of time it really takes, so you're not, oh, I tried it for 2 weeks and things didn't quite go the way I wanted to. So in fact, some people might not lose a lot of weight for about a month just because it takes a while. Think about your whole life. You've been eating a certain way, and now we have to not just generate enzymes to make ketones, we have to generate enzymes and mechanics to absorb and utilize this new fuel system. So it's a whole different machine that you're building. You can speed it up though if you do more fasting and more periodic prolonged fasting, and you keep your carbs lower, you'll speed it up. So maybe you can even bring it down to a couple weeks. And if you add exercise, you can speed it up even more. So these are just things to think about, but think long term with ketone. This also explains why people might have, they have really bad insulin resistance or they're pre-diabetic and all of a sudden their blood sugars are still high and they're not eating these sugars because the system is still adapting and it takes time.
Well, Dr. Berg is also very patient with our callers, and he never leaves them hanging. We got 2 more. We're going to make sure we take care of them. Who are we going to, Terry? Okay.
Well, Steve, you know, you have to have patience. So this is why we have a waiting room and in the office, and then also that's why we call you a patient.
That's exactly right. So
let's go to Sahar from Toronto.
That's correct.
From
Hi.
Hi, Ontario.
Hi, my name. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for all those videos. I've been watching for a while, and I have a few questions. Yeah. First, I have been sick through the last year, and I have got all the tests like endoscopy, colonoscopy, and MRI. Everything has the doctor run. They have not found out anything, just IBS or small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And I've been losing weight, and I have a bad digestion issue, burping, flatulence, light color stool, and I have a silent gallstone. I have no pain under the rib cage, but I have a silent gallstone. So my question is, should I get it removed? It's not causing any symptoms. Should I get it removed? It's 1.9 centimeter. Or is there any way to dissolve it, or I can do anything to...
I think that would be between your doctor, but this is my opinion, is that I would definitely try another route first. I would try, definitely take some regular bile salts, and I would probably take them also on an empty stomach and with meals through the day, just consistently over time, and see what can happen. Without a gallbladder, now you can't really put it back. So it'd be nice if they could actually potentially do a surgery. You probably don't want to do this, but where they could just take the stone out and leave the gallbladder there. Sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they won't. I think the gallbladder is important. So unless it's creating an issue, why take it out? Because now you're going to have an issue with the storage of your bile. And then you're not going to have enough sometimes, and you're not going to be able to absorb the fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, D, E, and K. So it's definitely a situation. So I would try to see what happens if you can shrink it. If you can, then, and you don't have a problem, then go in that direction. Of course, get on healthy keto, so that way you have the vegetables and everything else to make sure that your diet is correct, because obviously some imbalance triggered it in the first place.
All right, and of course we're going to go to Vicki from Darlington, and then don't go away, audience, because I have an important announcement before we wrap the show. Go ahead, Doc.
Okay, Vicki, you are on from North Carolina. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I want to give you a little bit of background just real quick. I've lost over 120 pounds. I don't have a gallbladder. I take bile salts. So I've done really well, and I've been just 6 pounds to my goal weight and kind of stuck. I tried to do the keto on steroids, and of course, the more I up my vegetables, the more I stay constipated. I've always had that problem. People will tell you, take fiber. No, fiber just actually causes me to be bent over in a fetal position in mega pain, and it causes me to be severely constipated in order to even try to go to the bathroom. I know this is a little TMI, but I have to use, every night I have to take Senna, Silimarian, and Cascada Garada. I know I'm not saying that right, but and I have to a lot of times just go ahead and also use suppositories. So I watched a video of yours, and it really intrigued me. It was the colon cleansing, your opinion, and in that you talked about people like me who the fiber causes the constipation, and you talked about going carnivore for approximately 2 months, and I would like to know what would that look like on a 1 meal a day?
Yeah, there's a right way to do it and a wrong day. You wouldn't necessarily just want to have steak. You'd want to have some organ meats, and there's maybe some eggs, some other things. So it's too short to give you the complete version of it, but I think that your fat needs to go up and your protein go down, so you're actually 2 to 1 as far as weight goes, like 2 times the fat to protein. That's what you want to do, and you'll find that here you are on no fiber, but your bowels are working great. So this is a perfect example, especially if you had SIBO, there's a gal that I interviewed a while ago. It was the from Hungary, paleo keto, something like that. You can check that video out, maybe contact them and find the diet that they recommend. I think that's perfect for you. You're probably going to do better on maybe a little bit of fermented vegetables, and definitely a probiotic. I think a good liquid probiotic would come in handy for you. But yeah, some people don't do well with vegetables, so you want to avoid them right now. But when you do carnivore, just want to make sure you're getting all your nutrients too. So search out that video and you can check it out, and it's somewhere on my YouTube channel. All right, thanks for your call. And Steve, what were you going to say?
Sorry, the show may almost be over, but boy, the excitement's mounting with our upcoming video topics. And here they are. How to lower cholesterol on keto, why liver damage makes why liver damage makes men estrogen dominant. That was a typo on Terry's part. I'm going to blame him. Why certain diseases will decrease your appetite. And finally, the best protein for recovery from exercise, stress, and trauma. That's all coming up on drberg.com. So even though the show's wrapping up, let's keep our eyes peeled on drberg.com until next week.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, guys. See you next week, and enjoy the upcoming videos. See you later.